Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the book Refuge and welcome to another taboo book recommendation. Now this one, I don't consider this myself, I don't consider this topic taboo. I don't consider BDSM such a taboo thing anymore, but I think that a lot of romance readers might, definitely book readers in general probably would, but for me, BDSM as healing is one of my favorite ways to read kink, one of my favorite ways to just experience that deep connection between two people who use kink in their relationship. Now, disclaimer, I don't myself practice kink. Thus far in my life, I have not. I'm not saying that any of these books are a perfect representation of this, but for me, the way that these books and these authors present these situations, I feel a renewing aspect in their sexual relationship. Each time they are engaging in kink in consensual or consensual, non-consensual situations, I feel like they are creating deeper connection with each other. And in some cases, specifically in the ones I'm going to talk about today, I feel that both people involved are made stronger because there's kink involved. You know, through the power exchange, through the dynamics, through sometimes the cleansing power of pain as pleasure. That is what is coming from that, in my opinion. I think that sometimes it can just be fun to want to read some spicy, sassy stuff. But for me, these are all ones that include some form of BDSM and also are very emotional and beautiful. So we're going to go through these. These are all books I have talked about to different degrees. The first two we're going to talk about are by one of my favorite authors, so you're not going to be surprised. But particularly this very first book, which is the one I always mention when I talk about BDSM, because it was the first one that showed me, that gave me the first inkling what BDSM as healing looks like for me. And of course, that's going to be Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. Just a very brief explanation of this one, but we have our heroine named Ivory. She is in a fight for her survival, okay? She has a mother and a brother, and they're oblivious to her pain. They each have different things they blame her for. Specifically that her father, who was a very well-known jazz musician, when he used the last of his money to purchase the 4 years of high school for Ivory at this really prestigious musical school for musical prodigies, basically. And then when he died, there wasn't anything left for the rest of the family. And so Ivory, for the last few years, has been doing everything she could to honor that gift her father gave her and keep her head above water. Her head isn't even above water, just maybe her nose and mouth. And then we have Emmerich, who's this pretty entitled musical prodigy himself. He has parents that are both in the business, and he has recently lost a job at one school because him and a teacher who were dating each other got caught, and she kind of accused him of assault because she wanted to protect her reputation because they were involved in some kinky situations and she didn't want the shame of that. And so Emmerich, when he first sees Ivory, he thinks she's a teacher because she looks older. She's been, in her opinion, kind of cursed with an older feminine looking body for an 18-year-old. And it's brought her nothing but misery, but it is also the only currency she has. So in this scenario, when her and Emmerich begin a relationship together, it's very much he is in lust with her and he wants her. But the more he studies her, because he is like, I am not getting involved with the student. The more he studies her, he realizes what a horrible situation she's in. And he takes it upon himself to be her protector when no one cares. The school doesn't care. Her mother doesn't care. Her brother doesn't care. And he saves her. And She, who has been engaging in sexual activity, most of it unwilling since she was 13 years old, gets shown what a beautiful consensual relationship looks like, and when no means no, and what safe words are and boundaries are, and when someone is disciplining you for your own well-being. And this book is just magic to me. I don't really want to hear anything people have to say about the power dynamics in this one of like teacher and student, even though I know they're there, and I know some people who are teachers, they can't take it. For me, this book is all about this girl being shown what her voice is and the power of her consent. This entire book is about consent. But first we have to be shown what non-consent looks like. And so I will fight to the death for this book. Like, honestly, I will for all of these, because when they show something so powerful, because at the end of the day, that's what BDSM is about. It is the highest form of consent. It is the highest form of trust that you can give. Now, going to the other spectrum of it though, I wouldn't 100% call particularly the beginning of this next relationship as BDSM, because it isn't consensual in the beginning. But that's just the way Pam likes to fuck with us. So the one I want to talk about is actually Vanquish. I'm just holding up my beautiful collection here though. This actually has the first 3 books in the Deliver series. All the books in the Deliver series really kind of lean into like darker sexual themes. This cover may have a shattered butterfly on the front, but these books are fucking heavy. So just know that. But book 2 in the series is about someone named Van and a heroine named Amber. Now, Amber used to be a beauty queen. She is now an agoraphobic. She has an eating disorder and she is locked away in her house. She is an artist who works with like leather and like engraving and making different things. And that's how she like does her orders and sells them from home. And she's able to stay locked inside. And Van, when he is spying on her next door neighbors, he realizes that there's a woman who lives in the house next door and that she's crazy pants. And I say that with love. And he decides he wants to keep her. So he kidnaps her. And he quickly realizes that he's bit off more than he can chew. And this is a man who's used to controlling people and being in charge. But there's some things about her that she obviously can't control, even if she would want to. And Van is able to use his dominant, possessive alpha nature to actually help Amber in some very beautiful ways. But like I said, this one doesn't start out as consensual, but where it ends is this really beautiful power exchange where he's able to, through discipline of BDSM, to help her work through some of her disorders that she has. And I love it so much. Then there is For Real by Alexis Hall. So this one is interesting in the fact that both characters are not new to BDSM. Well, our young alpha Toby is new to it, but he knows that he wants to be it, and he is a dominant, but he's only 19 years old. And our other hero, yes, this is a male-male romance, Lori, he is late 30s, I think, and he's just kind of lost the luster of the BDSM community. Now, he is a submissive. He's in a long-term relationship with his partner, and his partner, though, left him quite a few years ago, and he's still like in the BDSM lifestyle, being submissives, though, in kind of a habitually one-night stand situation. And so he's never able to find that same connection where he fully trusts a dominant. He will kind of like power top or power bond him sometimes. He's still very much like in charge in those ways. And then one night he gives Toby a chance. He gives Toby a chance to be a dom, and Lori becomes obsessed with Toby. And Toby is just kind of like in over his head. And something that I really love in this one is we get to see how important aftercare is for dominance as well as for submissives. Because number one, I love aftercare, whether it's in kink relationships or just a standard vanilla relationship. I think aftercare is very important, which is why I hate the term white fanging, which was introduced by New Girl, but my lovely friend Crystal says all the time in a book where we have an intense sexual experience and one of the people books it. You can't do that in BDSM. It is extremely damaging to the partner. And I feel like in this one we see that because Lori kind of fucks up with this. Because there's this new dom, and even though he's the dom and he's the one doing the dominating, they still need reassurances and they need aftercare as well. And so I love that. And the reason I put this in the BDSM as healing is because even though Lori has been in this lifestyle over half of his life, he's forgotten some of the renewing and beautiful qualities it has until he gets into this relationship with Toby, who he just finds to be magical in a way. He has such a bright hope and excitement for the future. And it just revitalizes Lori in a beautiful way. And I love their relationship so much. This is a book that I go back to about every 6 months for the last 2 years because it brings me a lot of joy. And if you didn't know, Alexis Hall is now known for books like the boyfriend material. And I'm telling you, if you've read this book, you know why I'm disappointed in boyfriend material. Because this is one of my favorite male-male romances ever created. And boyfriend material was vapid and stupid, in my opinion. Compared to that, it's vapid and stupid. Okay, then we have a newer release, but one that I've been talking about for a lot of the year because the author was kind enough to let me read an arc pretty early on. But that is Savage Tracker by Maggie Cole. The audiobook for this is excellent. This is book 5 in the Mafia Wars, so there is a little bit of work to get to it. What I will say is that after you've read the first and the second one, and the third one maybe, you could skip to this one because the third and the fourth books, in my opinion, they're a little bit weaker in the series for what is happening in the story. But this book, this is a 6-star read for me because we have a heroine named Selena. Is it Selena? Now great, now my brain is just like, what's her name? Yeah, Selena. And she was in a forced master-slave relationship for 10 years. She was forced into it. Now she is free from her husband, is divorced, and she's kind of being taken care of by the Ivanovs. And we have Obrecht, who is kind of put to watch over her. And he will top at clubs sometimes. He's not a master. He's not specifically even a dom, but he will top. He very specifically likes to call himself a top because to him, being a dom or a master involves being more committed to his submissive than he would like to be. But both of them are having these thoughts about how they want the other one to be in or seen with them, you know. But the thing is, Selena, though she has all of these traits as submissive, and though she has the tendencies and she does want to be a submissive because she feels so out of control, even though she was in such a forced situation before, she still craves certain aspects of the life. And so she feels a lot of shame for that because she's like, how could I still want those things when I was forced to do them for so long? And Obrecht, he starts to recognize those tendencies in her because there's a few times where he'll tell her to do something just because he's like, sit, and she'll like do it, and they both will get this like zing from it because he's giving power and she's like, you know, accepting it. And what is so beautiful is watching him be there for her when he decides to teach her about what like proper BDSM would look like in a safe, consensual way where she can say no whenever she wants to. And also him realizing that maybe he does want something more permanent where there's that deep trust between the two of them. So though this one for me is definitely much more healing for her, it's still very, you know, life-changing for Obrecht as well. And I love this book so much. Like, my biggest fear is that people give up on this series in books 3 or 4 because some aspects of them are very repetitive. And this book just comes out of nowhere and just smacks you across the face. It's just so gut-wrenching and beautiful. And again, the narration is great. And book 6 in this series is great too. There's more fun kink in that one. It's not the same BDSM as healing. But anyway, I highly recommend Savage Tracker. It is in my top books of the year and one of my favorite BDSM as healing ever. Then I have kind of a quick one that I want to mention. It's called His Cocky Valet by McCade. So this is also a male-male romance. And this one is about a young man who is going to be taking over for his father in business. And I think the dad died. And then his father's valet, who is older, and he takes over. And in this, how this valet does things is that he's there to take care of all of his young master's needs. But the thing is, the valet, he is the dominant in the situation. In fact, there's like a little bit of like daddy, little boy stuff going on in this one, but I loved it so much. And I look at this one as BDSM as healing because our young gentleman, he's just so adrift. And so with his cocky valet kind of taking him in hand and helping him make decisions and helping him be prepared every day, it kind of gives him a perfect purpose and a direction and helps him to be his best self. So this one is not as like intense and deep as some of these other ones I've mentioned, but I still wanted to put it in here because it's, number one, just a very sexy, sweet book. But it does go into like the different kinds of like discipline or BDSM we might need and what that might look like. There is For Her Own Good by Tamsen Parker. This one is very heavy, and this one is more taboo than even some of the other ones we've talked about. This is about a girl who, when she was 16, when she was young, she was in a mental hospital, and she kind of fell for her therapist, who was much older than her. And in fact, she like made a move on him, and he was like, nope, can't do this, can't do this. And so he rejected her, and she actually ended up having a suicide attempt. So all this stuff happened when she was young. Now I think it's like, I can't remember, it's like 10 or 15 years later. It might be 15 because, no, it might be 10. Because she's in her late 20s and he's in his like late 40s now, okay? And now she is an adult and she fully like will be in the DDGL lifestyle. So she has like, she fully is in the BDSM lifestyle where she is a little, you can look into this if you want to. I'm not going to explain all the terms of this for you, but she goes to see people who are her bigs or her like mommy or daddies who will just let her be free for the time that she is. So it happens that our hero, he has since this time he's been married and now he's divorced again, and he comes back to town and they meet each other again after all these years, and he is stunned to find out that these tendencies he felt towards her, which were inappropriate when she was underage, are things that on her own, without him being there influencing her, they both kind of have these mirroring kinks because he wants to be a daddy. And I know this one's weird, this one's taboo, whatever, but this was the first one that I'd read that actually was like a DDGL dynamic, and I really liked it, and I ended up going and reading a bunch. Some that got a little too weird for me and I didn't like, but this one I really did. I really trust Tamsen Parker to tell these like darker, twistier, not even darker, but like twistier relationships with more taboo setups, and this one was very healing for both of them, because he held a lot of guilt over how he rejected her and her like suicide attempt, and she holds a lot of guilt because of a lot of other things in her life. So it was a very interesting view for both of them. Yeah. And then the last one I want to talk about, this book, I haven't talked about this book in a while, and I fucking love this series. So specifically the one that I'm talking about is Captivated by the Winter King, and this is by Minstrel Dawn. Now Minstrel Dawn, she has 3 books in this series and a novella, I think, and they all involve fairy and fae and they all involve a woman kind of falling into fae and becoming the mate of like I think there's Stolen by the Huntsman, Married to the Summer. I don't know what they're, I can't remember all their names. But this one, our heroine, she's in an abusive marriage, and one night, like, I think he like goes too far and like almost kills her, and she's running away and she falls into fae. And the thing is with these, like, when the women like cross over into fae, like, and they are within the vicinity of their mate will like feel that they've come there, and they'll just be like their bat signal goes up and they know that their mate is there. And so the Winter King comes and finds her when she's reached fae, and he's like, "You're my mate. I've been waiting for you." And the thing is, I love this one so much because our Winter King is into kink, like all these fae are into kink. It's great. But he's a switch. And this was the first time that I'd seen a switch like so fully be a switch, like not just like to top from the bottom or something. And so he will let her, because he likes it, he's a switch, he will let her, because she's very timid, she was in an abusive relationship, she was raped by her husband, all these things happened to her, he will let her test out everything on him first. And it's so sexy. It's so beautiful because it bonds them together. So there's also these fun kind of like different kink devices that are only in fae, because like he like can create things because he is, you know, magical, and he's made some of his own kink equipment that is specific to fairy, and it's really cool. But everything that they do together, he will be the submissive and let her test on him to see if she's scared of it or whatever, and then he'll do it to her. And it's so sexy, and this one is so beautiful, and I love this whole series. They have crazy covers. I know it's a little kooky, but honest to goodness, I wish this author wrote more books in this world because I love it. I love it so much. It's so beautiful, and the way that he is just so kind to her and so happy to have his mate. And he's like, whatever you need, like, we can have super vanilla sex or we can have this power dynamic, whatever you need, I'm here to serve you because I'm your mate. I love it. I love it. Love it so much. So anyway, those are all the books I wanted to mention for BDSM as healing. I know there are got to be a ton more. I'd love to hear your recommendations for them, but these are the ones that I wanted to share today that have made the biggest like impact on me, and are ones that whenever someone asks me, they're what I recommend. So thank you so much for watching this video. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. If you want to check out more dark romance recommendations or more BDSM romance recommendations, make sure you check out my playlists. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.